here you have Wabanachis, particularly Rowan Doggett, in the 1630s. Well, and I haven't explained Nequasit, but I'll just say that very briefly. His first land sale is a place called Nequasit, which is in Woolwich, which I did mark as number 7. Nequasit means my pond. And it's a rather curious thing to sell somebody my pond, right? But what's interesting is that 10 years later, when he sells another parcel that's right nearby, he refers to himself, in English I should say, refer to him in their writing as Rowan Doggett of Nequasit. which is also